They pinned a star on his chest and called him a hero. But when the dust settled in Silver Creek, Wyoming, the town realized something horrifying. Their marshal had killed more innocent people than criminals. His name was Clayton Voss, and by the time anyone questioned his methods, it was already too late. This is the true story of a fake lawman who turned an entire town into his personal hunting ground. A story of manipulation, murder, and a badge that became the deadliest weapon in the West. Silver Creek, Wyoming, spring of 1881. Picture this: a mining town of barely 300 souls, nestled in a valley where the wind carried the constant smell of sulfur from the mines and wood smoke from the saloons. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, or thought they did, where the nearest federal marshal was 3 days' ride away, and justice was whatever the man with the fastest draw said it was. The town had a problem, a big one. For 6 months, outlaws had been terrorizing the supply routes, stages robbed, miners ambushed on their way back from selling gold, 2 merchants murdered in broad daylight. The small-time sheriff they had, a man named Eugene Watts, was 63 years old, half-blind, and more interested in his whiskey than his duty. The town council knew they needed real law, hard law, the kind that came with a reputation and a body count. That's when Clayton Voss rode into town on a black stallion, wearing a long duster coat that had seen better days and carrying 2 ivory-handled Colts that gleamed in the afternoon sun. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running from his left eye to his jawline, the kind of face that told stories without saying a word. He walked into the town council meeting uninvited and made them an offer. "I hear you gentlemen have a problem with outlaws," he said, his voice like gravel scraping iron. "I'm the solution." Council leader Marcus Webb, who owned the largest mine in the territory, leaned forward. "And who exactly are you, mister?" Voss pulled out a folded letter from his coat. "Clayton Voss, former deputy marshal out of Dodge City, cleaned up Abilene after the cattle wars, ran the Jessup gang out of Colorado. I don't come cheap, but I get results." The letter looked official, stamped signatures, fancy letterhead. Webb didn't bother checking if it was real. None of them did. They were desperate, and desperation makes people stupid. "How much?" Webb asked. $100 a month, plus a percentage of any recovered stolen goods. It was highway robbery for a marshal's salary, but they agreed. They fired Sheriff Watts on the spot, gave Voss the badge, the keys to the office, and the authority to do whatever it took to bring order. The town celebrated that night. They bought Voss drinks at the saloon, slapped him on the back, told him he was their savior. He smiled and said all the right things, but behind those cold, gray eyes, something darker was calculating, something predatory. Within 48 hours, Clayton Voss would commit his first murder. The first victim was a drifter named Samuel Prine. Tuesday evening, 3 days after Voss took the badge, Prine had been in town less than a week, doing odd jobs, keeping to himself. That night he was playing poker at the Silver Spur Saloon. Nothing unusual, just miners, ranch hands, and travelers passing through. Then Voss walked in. The room went quiet the way it does when authority enters. Voss scanned the tables, his hand resting casually on his gun belt, his eyes locked on Prine. "You," Voss said. "Stand up." Prine looked confused. "Me? What for, Marshal?" I said stand up. Prine stood slowly, hands visible. "I ain't done nothing wrong. You matched the description of a man wanted for armed robbery in Cheyenne. I'm taking you in. There must be some mistake. I've never even been to Cheyenne." Voss's hand moved. 2 shots. Both hit Prine in the chest before the man could even think about reaching for a weapon. Prine collapsed onto the card table, blood spreading across the green felt. Cards scattered, poker chips clattered to the floor. The saloon erupted in chaos, but Voss just holstered his gun calmly and looked around the room. "Self-defense," he announced. Man was reaching for his piece. You all saw it. No one had seen it, but no one said a word, because Voss was staring at each of them, memorizing faces, daring someone to contradict him. The bartender, shaking, nodded. Yes, Marshal. Self-defense." Voss dragged Prine's body outside and left it in the street. The town council paid for the burial the next morning. Voss pocketed the $73 Prine had won at cards that night. No one questioned it. The official report said, "Outlaw killed while resisting arrest." But here's what's chilling. Prine wasn't wanted for anything. There was no warrant, no robbery in Cheyenne. Voss had simply seen a man with money and decided he wanted it, and he knew no one would stop him. The second killing came 8 days later. A ranch hand named Douglas McCreary, 24 years old, worked for the Holloway Ranch just outside town. Someone reported cattle missing, probably just strayed or taken by wolves, but Voss decided McCreary was the thief. He tracked McCreary to a creek where the young man was watering his horse. Witnesses who found the body later said McCreary had been shot in the back, execution style. His pockets were empty. His horse was gone, later seen, tied up behind the marshal's office. Voss's report caught the thief trying to flee, ordered him to stop. He reached for his gun, had no choice. The pattern was forming. But fear is a powerful silencer, and in the Old West, challenging a marshal, especially one as intimidating as Voss, was a death sentence in itself. By the end of his second month, Voss had killed 5 people: a traveling salesman accused of cheating at dice, a prospector who'd allegedly threatened someone in a bar fight, a Mexican farmhand who Voss claimed was a member of a bandit gang. None of it checked out, none of it mattered. The town was too terrified to act. Voss patrolled the streets with those twin Colts, his eyes scanning for his next target. He'd started drinking heavily, which made him more volatile, more unpredictable. Townsfolk crossed to the other side of the street when they saw him coming. Mothers pulled their children inside when he rode past. And the real outlaws? The gang that had been terrorizing the supply routes? They were still out there, still robbing, still killing. Because Voss wasn't hunting criminals, he was hunting victims. Then came the murder that finally broke the town's silence. Thomas Hollis, 16 years old, son of Daniel Hollis, the town's blacksmith, one of the most respected men in Silver Creek. Thomas was a good kid, helped his father in the forge, sang in the church choir, dreamed of becoming a teacher someday. On June 14, 1881, Thomas was walking home from the general store carrying a small cloth bag with his father's weekly earnings, $38 in coins and bills. It was mid-afternoon. Main Street was busy, people everywhere. Voss was leaning against a post outside the saloon watching. When Thomas walked past, Voss called out, "Boy, come here." Thomas stopped, nervous. Everyone was nervous around Voss now. "Yes, Marshal? What's in the bag?" "Money for my father, sir. From his work this week." Voss pushed off the post and walked closer. "You sure about that? Or are you carrying loot for the Mason gang?" Thomas's eyes went wide. "What? No, sir. I don't even know who that is." "Don't lie to me, boy." "I'm not lying." "Marshal, please. This is just my father's money." "Empty the bag." Thomas did. The coins spilled onto the dirt street. Voss bent down, picked up a few, examined them. "These coins are marked," Voss said, a complete lie. "Stolen from the last stage robbery. You're working with outlaws, boy." "No, Marshal, my father earned." Voss's hand dropped to his gun. "You calling me a liar?" Thomas took a step back, terrified. "No, sir, I just—" "Reach for your weapon!" But Thomas didn't have a weapon. He was 16. He had no gun. His hands were empty. Voss drew anyway, and fired. Once, straight through Thomas's heart. The boy dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The bag of coins scattered across the street. Blood pooled in the Wyoming dust. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then a woman screamed. Voss calmly holstered his gun, bent down and collected the coins. He looked up at the crowd gathering around the body. Boy was working with outlaws, Voss said flatly. Resisted arrest, reached for a weapon. But this time, people had seen everything. And the victim wasn't some drifter or stranger. This was Thomas Hollis, everyone's son. If you love dark, real stories from the Old West where truth is stranger and darker than fiction, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps the channel grow. And trust me, you'll want to see how this nightmare ends. Now back to the case. Daniel Hollis heard the shot from his forge 2 blocks away. He dropped his hammer and ran. When he reached Main Street and saw his son's body lying in the dirt, when he saw Voss pocketing the money, something inside him shattered and then reformed into pure, cold rage. "You murdered my boy," Daniel said, his voice shaking. Voss turned, hand on his gun. Your boy was a criminal. He was 16 years old. He didn't even own a gun. The crowd was growing, murmuring. For the first time, people weren't backing down. Voss sensed the shift. He mounted his horse quickly. I'm the law here. You got a problem, take it up with the council. And he rode off, leaving Thomas Hollis's body in the street. That night, Daniel Hollis did something no one else had dared to do. He went through every death Voss had been involved in. He talked to witnesses. He wrote everything down. And he made a list. 7 names. 7 people killed by Marshal Clayton Voss in 4 months. Not one of them had been a verified outlaw. Not one had received a trial or even a proper arrest. And in every single case, something valuable had gone missing from the body. Samuel Prine, $73 in poker winnings. Douglas McCreary, a gold pocket watch and a horse. Henry Vasquez, $120 in mining wages. Margaret Bellamy, diamond earrings. Voss claimed she was a con artist. She wasn't. Elijah Stone, a rifle and ammunition. Robert Cho, $200 in savings he'd been carrying to send to family in California. Thomas Hollis, $38. Daniel took his list to the town council. He demanded they investigate. He demanded justice. And finally, Marcus Webb and the council agreed. The investigation started quietly. Webb didn't want to spook Voss before they had all the facts. He sent a telegram to Dodge City asking about their former deputy marshal, Clayton Voss. The response came 3 days later. No record of any deputy or marshal by that name. Please advise. Webb's blood went cold. He sent more telegrams. Abilene, Colorado. Every place Voss had claimed to work. Same response. Every time. No record. No Clayton Voss. Webb dug deeper. He examined the letter of recommendation Voss had provided. A printing expert in Cheyenne confirmed it. Forgery. Good forgery, but fake nonetheless. The signatures were copied from real marshals, but the dates and details were fabricated. Then came the worst discovery. Webb found a wanted poster buried in a stack of old notices. The face was younger, the name different, but the scar was unmistakable. Clayton Voss was really Clayton Vogel, wanted in Kansas for murder and armed robbery. He'd killed a store owner in Lawrence during a botched holdup, then disappeared into the territories. That had been 3 years ago. Since then, he'd been drifting, probably committing crimes under different names, until he'd gotten smart and decided to commit crimes while wearing a badge, because who questions the marshal? Webb called an emergency council meeting. The evidence was damning. Voss wasn't just corrupt, he was a wanted murderer playing lawman, and he'd killed at least 7 innocent people in Silver Creek alone. God knew how many more in other towns. They had to act fast. They formed a posse, 15 armed men, including Daniel Hollis. They planned to arrest Voss at dawn, when he'd be sleeping off his whiskey at the boarding house where he stayed. But someone talked, or Voss sensed the trap, because when the posse arrived at sunrise, Voss's room was empty. His saddlebags were gone. His horse was gone. They'd missed him by maybe 2 hours. The posse tracked his trail north. Voss was riding hard, probably heading for Montana or even Canada, anywhere the law couldn't follow. They found his campsite from the night before. Cold ashes, discarded whiskey bottle. Then, 20 miles from the border, they found his horse, shot dead, lying in a shallow ravine. But no Voss, no body, no blood trail, nothing. Some of the men wanted to keep searching, but Marcus Webb made the call. He's either dead or he's gone. Either way, Silver Creek is rid of him. They rode back to town and told everyone Clayton Voss was gone. They held a memorial service for the 7 victims. Daniel Hollis stood at his son's grave and wept. But here's where the story gets even darker and connects to something disturbingly modern. Because Clayton Voss wasn't the first person to fake credentials and become a lawman, and he definitely wasn't the last. In 2019, a Louisiana man named Vincent Richardson was arrested after it was discovered he'd been working as a deputy sheriff for over a year, using fake police certifications. In 2022, a California police chief turned out to be a con artist who'd never attended a police academy. Just last year, a man in Texas was exposed running an entire fake police department. The same scam Voss pulled in 1881 is still happening today. Why? Because we want to believe authority figures. We don't question the badge, and predators know this. But back to 1881. The official story was that Voss had fled and probably died somewhere in the wilderness. The town tried to move on. They hired a real marshal this time, verified credentials, checked references, the works. But rumors started spreading. Disturbing rumors. A saloon owner in Billings, Montana claimed he'd served a man matching Voss's description. Same scar, same cold eyes, who'd been asking about marshal positions. A prostitute in Deadwood said she'd entertained a man who bragged about killing people legally because he wore a star. A rancher in Idaho reported a drifter who carried twin Colts with ivory handles. None of it was confirmed, but the pattern was there. And then, in 1884, 3 years after Silver Creek, something happened in a small Arizona town called Copper Ridge. Copper Ridge hired a new marshal. His name was Charles Vale. He had excellent letters of recommendation. He wore twin Colts with ivory handles, and he had a scar running from his left eye to his jawline. Within 2 months, Charles Vale had killed 4 people, all of them under suspicious circumstances. All of them had money or valuables that mysteriously disappeared. A traveling judge happened to pass through Copper Ridge and heard about the killings. Something bothered him. He'd heard a similar story somewhere before. He did some digging and discovered the truth about Charles Vale. He was Clayton Voss, the same man who'd terrorized Silver Creek. The judge organized a proper arrest. But once again, Voss disappeared before they could take him. And once again, the trail went cold. Over the next decade, similar stories popped up across the West. A marshal in Nevada, a deputy in New Mexico, a constable in Oregon. Different names, same MO, same twin Colts, same scar. But here's what's truly terrifying. We don't know how many people Clayton Voss killed. 7 in Silver Creek, 4 in Copper Ridge. But how many other towns? How many other names did he use? Some historians estimate he could have killed anywhere from 20 to 40 people over a 15-year period. All of them while wearing a badge. All of them legally as far as anyone knew. The last confirmed sighting of anyone matching Voss's description was in 1896 in Northern California. A man calling himself Marshal Clyde Vaughn was reportedly killed in a shootout with actual U.S. Marshals after they'd finally connected him to multiple murders across 6 states. But the body was never formally identified. It was buried in an unmarked grave, and the case was quietly closed. Did they really kill Clayton Voss? Or did he escape one more time, change his name again, and continue his killing spree somewhere else? We'll never know for sure. What we do know is this: Clayton Voss represents one of the darkest truths about the Old West, and about human nature. Evil doesn't always look like an outlaw with a black hat. Sometimes it looks like authority. Sometimes it wears a badge. Sometimes the most dangerous person in town is the one everyone trusts to protect them. Silver Creek never fully recovered. The town struggled for years with the guilt and trauma of what they'd allowed to happen. Daniel Hollis left Wyoming and was never heard from again. Some say he spent the rest of his life hunting for Voss, but died without ever finding him. The town itself, eventually, dried up when the mines ran out, and by 1920, Silver Creek was a ghost town. Today, if you visit the old cemetery, you can still find Thomas Hollis's grave. It's weathered and cracked, but the inscription is still readable. Murdered by the man sworn to protect him. 7 other graves sit nearby. 7 people who trusted the wrong man. 7 lives stolen by someone who understood that the best disguise for a predator is the uniform of a protector. And here's the final disturbing truth that connects this 143-year-old story to today. This still happens. People still fake credentials to gain authority. They still exploit trust. They still hide behind badges and titles while committing crimes. The methods have evolved. The technology has changed. But the psychology is exactly the same as Clayton Voss in 1881. And that should terrify us. Because if we don't learn from history, if we don't question authority when something feels wrong, if we stay silent out of fear, then we're no different than the people of Silver Creek who watched 7 murders happen and did nothing until it was too late. If you want more true stories from the darkest corners of the Old West, stories that still echo in today's world, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. These stories matter. They teach us to be vigilant, to question, to protect each other. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? City and country, And if you've ever encountered corruption in positions of authority, share your story. Let's keep these conversations alive. And don't go anywhere. There's another Old West nightmare waiting for you in the next video. Because the West was full of monsters, and some of them wore stars.